I was humbled to stand with the honorable members of the House and to the many tribal and state domestic violence organizations in attendance in offering a moment of silence following the reading of a joint resolution. Through the collaborative work and support of many, Maine has replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Through the collaborative work and support of many, Maine is the first state in the United States to ban Native American mascots. Please allow me to also give special recognition to my colleague, Penobscot Nation Ambassador Mulliandana, for her work and dedication and in addressing and bringing about this important change. In consultation with tribal leaders and through the leadership of House Speaker Sarah Gideon and Senate President Troy Jackson, he's coming up next, I believe. No, after, following the next speaker. A joint order establishing the Task Force on Changes to the Maine Indian Claim Settlement Implementing Act was presented and passed. A section of the joint order states and recognizes the following. Whereas differing interpretations of the Act have caused disagreements between the state and tribal nations and have negatively affected the Wabanaki communities and hindered their ability to exercise tribal sovereignty for the benefit of our people. The Task Force on Changes to the Maine Indian Claim Settlement Implementing Act has been established, and meetings to address this very important issue are taking place. The next scheduled meeting will be held on September 13th. I welcome and encourage your participation and support by calling upon the task force members, state senators, and representatives. Asking them to support the tribal citizens and tribal governments of Maine with a vote for tribal sovereignty. And to the same rights, privileges, powers, and immunities as other federally recognized Indian tribes within the United States. As we consider the upcoming 2020 election, it is my hope that all eligible voters cast that leadership choice that is reflective of an individual that will lead for the betterment of others and reset the nation's tone that all men, women, and children are indeed created equally and shall be recognized as such. It is with great appreciation and honor that I extend a thank you, Chiwili-Wun, for your time this evening. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. Please introduce the next speaker. I commented on her name, and her name is Victoria Jessica. I changed her name. Jessica Ford, and she is union activist. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Portland. My name is Jessica Ford, and I'm a single mother to an incredible 8-year-old boy. Thank you. My life's purpose is to serve my family and my community. I'm here tonight so that I can teach my son to stand up and speak out for what he believes in. I believe in Bernie Sanders. Working as a machinist at Bath Iron Works, I'm considered a woman working in a non-traditional role. I'm an active union member and union representative. I feel it is my duty and my obligation to loudly advocate for equality and dignity in the workplace for all working class people. I believe that this is a value that Bernie and I share. Since the placement of the current administration, I have feared for the present and future of the United States of America. This is not my America. What will my son's future look like? We're at a pivotal moment in history for the United States right now. We must unite for the future of our country. Bernie Sanders represents and fights for the America we all deserve. Healthcare is a human right, and it's time we treat it as such. We must eradicate for-profit healthcare. Unions built this country. In 1954, union density was at its highest at nearly 35%, and the middle class was at its strongest. The holiday we're celebrating this weekend was brought to us by the blood, sweat, and tears of the labor movement and unionism. We need to restore dignity to all working class people. No person should work 40-plus hours a week in the United States and still not be able to provide their basic needs for their families. We need to empower workers. Lastly, trade schools and college education should be available to any person. We should not have to put ourselves into a lifetime of student debt to advance upon our careers in education. I believe in Bernie Sanders. I believe in his values, and I believe that he is fighting for an America we can all be proud of. When Bernie wins the presidential election in 2020, he will redirect the trajectory of this country. He will create a today and a future that all Americans can be proud of. Bernie Sanders stands for our America, and I stand with Bernie. Thank you. And now it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you the President of the Maine State Senate, a logger, a father, and my brother in the Machinists Union, Troy Jackson.
Hey, good evening, brothers and sisters. So look, I got a lot of things going in my mind tonight. Never really wrote anything down because I want to try and be as honest and sincere about this. I'm here tonight because I support Bernie Sanders first and foremost. Because I'm an everyday working class person more than anything. And Bernie being basically now a friend of mine, that means a lot. That would be enough right there for me to want to endorse someone that was a friend of mine. But it's more than that. You know, since I've been paying attention to what Senator Sanders has been fighting for, making sure that we have single-payer health insurance, making sure that we have prescription drug relief, all those things are huge in my book. Things that you know, core beliefs for me, things that I need to have, I want to have. But he also fights for fair trade agreements. He fights for union workers' rights. He fights for things that, you know, that we all should know that are so important as a fair tax system, making sure that the millionaires and billionaires don't get the tax breaks, that it's the everyday working class people that get the breaks. I mean, that's the things that really are important. That's what we should all be working for. That's what every politician in this country should be working for. But instead, you know, what do? They try and discredit. You know, yesterday I was back home in my town of Allagash, and I actually was with two of the people that helped open my eyes to what's going on in this state and in this country. And I thought a lot about that on the drive down today, or yesterday, about what I'd say tonight. You know, it was back in 1998 that a group of us that was so frustrated by the way that our government was working got together and staged a labor dispute back up on the St. Paul border. And during that time, you know, we were looking at what we saw as the law, the way it was written currently, and we couldn't understand why we couldn't get our government to follow a law that was actually already written on the books. And what I took from that was that often government doesn't work for the people that it's designed for. Government certainly doesn't always work for me, doesn't always work for you. And that's why, you know, we were doing what we were doing back in 1998. And what I remember about that and what I thought about yesterday was, you know, they told us that we were lazy, that we didn't want to work, that we were just radical and didn't want to, you know, actually conform. And that is what is going on in this country. I mean, they're making us feel like we're doing something wrong if we're just asking for the basic things that we all know that we should have. And I'm tired as hell of that. And so for what it seems like all of my life, I've been watching Bernie Sanders fight for those things that are so basic, so obvious, something that we all deserve. And that is why it is so easy for me to be here tonight to support him. He's fighting for the things that I care about, the things that we care about, the things that our families deserve. He's been doing that for 30 years, and you know what? They've been calling him radical and out of step. But he's not. What he is he's fighting for us. So here's the deal. It's why I'm here tonight. You know, I've been in the Maine legislature for 16 years. You heard Jessica talk about, I was a Senate president. I'm a state senator from northern Maine. Wicked honored to be both those things. I'm also a member of the Democratic National Committee. But like I said, I am an everyday working class person. And the reason why I'm here tonight is I need to believe that there's someone in this country that is going to fight for me, my family, my community, for the people that I care about in the state of Maine, the people that I care about in this United States. I have to believe that there's someone out there that's going to do this, that I can feel inspired by. And that person is Bernie Sanders. So there's more of us than there's ever going to be the millionaires and billionaires of Wall Street. So let's pick it up, let's get together, and let's make this happen this time. We can definitely do it. We know who the person is that's going to So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to be here tonight. I'm excited to hear what the senator is going to say. I'm excited to know how amped up he's going to get all of you as he is me, because I am everyday guy that wants to make sure that we have someone that's fighting for us, and that's that guy. But before that, I'm equally excited to announce, or to announce two gentlemen that I am wicked pleased to meet here tonight. I like ice cream. Ben and Jerry from the Vermont. You can't ask for better than that. Ben and Jerry.
Hello, I am the Jerry. This is the Ben. We have been spending the day campaigning and scooping ice cream in New Hampshire. We are thrilled to be here now. Ben and I have never campaigned before for a presidential candidate, and that is because there has never been a candidate like Bernie Sanders. We've been constituents of Bernie's for over 30 years, and we have seen firsthand how Bernie fights for all of us. He knows we need a country and a government that works for us and not just for the special interests, the ultra-wealthy, the giant corporations. Bernie is not for sale. We're doing all we can to help elect Bernie. Here's Ben.
You know, before Bernie, Jerry and I used to be the most famous guys from Vermont. So, we're really happy to give that mantle over to Bernie because ice cream is good, but a president of the United States who truly believes in justice in all its flavors, that is euphoric! Euphoria is a high-minded word, but the reason why Bernie will be able to transform Washington is that he's down to earth. He has a vision, and it's pretty basic. What would our country be like if it worked for the benefit of regular working people instead of corporations and multinationals? He knows what he's up against. He has no delusions. He has experience in the trenches, in the cesspool of what is our political process today, and that will enable him, with the help of all of us, to successfully flush the crap down the drain. I don't see Bernie as a politician in the usual sense of the word. He's a fighter for justice, social, racial, economic, and environmental, and he uses politics as a means to that end. Before Bernie, I never had a mayor that represented my values, or a congressman, or a senator, and I can't tell you how good it feels. So I just want to give you a taste of what has gotten me so excited about seeing this guy in the White House. In 1980, when Ben & Jerry's was just starting out, Bernie won an improbable victory over a long-term Democratic Party machine, old crony politician, and he became mayor of Burlington. Just about his first act was to shut down plans for expensive condominiums that would privatize the shore of Lake Champlain. And instead, he turned the land into a public park open to all. When he became my congressman, he personally took busloads of senior citizens over the border into Canada so they could purchase prescription drugs at decent prices. He voted against NAFTA before being against NAFTA was cool. He voted against going to war in Iraq twice. Then in 2007, he defeated the richest man in Vermont to become my senator. As senator, he led a successful effort to stop a proposal that would have cut Social Security and disabled veterans' benefits. Last September, Bernie introduced the Stop Bezos Act. That stands for Stop Bad Employers by Zeroing Out Subsidies. It required large corporations that were paying lousy wages to reimburse the government for the Medicaid and the food stamps that their employees needed in order to get by. And just recently, it was Bernie who brought together Republicans and Democrats to pass a resolution in the Senate to get the U.S. out of the war in Yemen. Look, I know that for every Democrat, for myself, for Bernie, for lots of independents, the most important thing is defeating Trump. Well, you know, they do this polling of head-to-head matchups, and the polling shows, poll after poll after poll, that Bernie beats Trump. Bernie beats Trump! 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 And I want to tell you that when we all work together and get Bernie elected, Jerry and I become the ministers of ice cream. And we promise a pint in every freezer, a sundae in every bowl. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you the one, the only, the original, and still champion, the future President of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders! Thank you, Portland. There is a lot of energy in this room tonight. So we've got to be a little careful because this is an old building and I feel the rafters starting to shake. So let me thank all of you for being here. Let me thank David Mallet, Max Conover, and the Ghost of Paul Revere for their music. Let me thank Claire Cummings and Rena Newell and Jessica Ford for sharing their stories with us and their visions and their hopes for the future. And let me thank a dear friend of mine, Troy Jackson, for all that he is doing as president of the state senate. Troy, thank you so much.
There we go.
Thank you. And that love is mutual. And that's a love that we're going to spread all over this country. And that is a love that's going to replace the hatred and the divisiveness coming from Trump. I'm here tonight, obviously, to ask for your very important support to win the primary here in the state of Maine. We did it last time, and with your help, we're going to do it again. I am here to ask your support to help me win the Democratic nomination. And when we win that nomination, I'll be back here to make sure that we defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country. And that is something we are going to do with joy. Every poll, every credible poll done in the last year has us beating Trump. The poll just came out the other day. I think we were 14 points ahead. But tonight, I'm here to ask even more from you than just winning this election. I'm asking your help. I'm the only candidate running for president who will tell you this. I'm asking your help the day after we get inaugurated. And we hope to have a whole lot of buses coming down to Washington from New England. I am asking your help after we are in office to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite in this country. And the politicians in Washington they have bought and sold. Now, what we are trying to do in this campaign is not only to win the election, but to bring about a political revolution. This is big stuff. This is not easy stuff. Because what that means, and let me be very honest with you, what that means is we are going to take on the power structure of the United States of America. Now, I'm the only candidate who's running for president who will tell you a very simple truth. It's a truth we don't talk about in Congress. It's a truth you won't see on TV or in the papers. And that is that no president of the United States, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. Cannot do it alone. And there is a reason why the message of our campaign is us, not me. And that's a message that, if you think about it for a minute, is a very profound message. That message means basically two things. It means that as human beings, we have a very different understanding of what life should be about than Donald Trump and his friends. They believe, and Trump is a perfect example of this, they believe that what life is about is to step on other people, to lie, to cheat, to steal, and to make as much money as you possibly can in any way possible. That's what their vision of human life is about. Our vision is a very different vision. Our vision is an understanding that as human beings, as Americans, we are in this together. And that our job is not to step on other people, it's not to lie, to cheat. Our job is to understand that as human beings, my family has got to worry about your family, and your family has to worry about my family, that we as human beings are in this together. And the second part of the message of us, not me, is also something that we don't talk about very much in America, because that gets to the heart and the guts of the power structure in this country. We don't talk about it. I will talk about it. And that is the understanding that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone, because we together, to bring about real change, are going to have to take on Wall Street, the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, and the entire 1%. Now, Nelson Mandela, I was in Iowa a few weeks ago, and somebody gave my grandson a little sign, and he held it up. And what the sign says, I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably forgetting a word or two, it was a quote from Nelson Mandela. And it was to the effect, everything is impossible until it is done. Do you know what that means? Everything is impossible until it is done. What that means, and really what the establishment tries to do to us, is to tell you and you and you think you can bring about change? You can't do anything. You are powerless people. Don't even think big. We own the world. And our job is to tell them, sorry, we are coming together, and we're going to create a country and an economy that works for all of us, not just you. So what this campaign is about, is demanding that the American people think big, not small. And I want to tell you a little bit, with your help, what we have already accomplished. 4 years ago when I came to Maine, I talked about the need for somebody in this country, if they're going to work 40 hours a week, they should not be living in poverty. And what we talked about was the need to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. $15 an hour. Think back 4 years ago and what the political establishment said and what the media establishment said is, that's too radical. It can't be done. You can't more than double the minimum wage. That's crazy. Well, over the last 4 years, 7 states have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And the U.S. House of Representatives have voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And we are going to demand that Mitch McConnell put my $15 an hour legislation on the floor. So I need your help here in Maine. Make sure your senators are on board. Make sure that Susan Collins is on board. Let Susan know that people can't make it on $10, $11 an hour. We need a $15 an hour minimum wage. So because of our victory here in Maine and in 21 other states, those ideas like raising the minimum wage to a living wage, which were once thought radical, well, states are doing it and the House is doing it. But we have got to go further in terms of wages. We must end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. We believe in equal pay for equal work. And if the middle class is going to grow, we need a strong trade union movement. And we will pass legislation that makes it much easier for workers who want to be in unions to join unions. There's another area where we have made good progress. And that is 4 years ago when I came to Maine, I said, you know, at this moment in American history where we have an exploding technology, where people need more skills in a competitive global economy if they're going to do well, if they're going to make it into the middle class, we have got to rethink what public education in this country means. And what I said was it is no longer good enough for public education, free public education, to be K through 12. We need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Well, that idea was also seen a few years ago as a radical idea, but guess what? Go to California, go to New York State, go to Tennessee, go to other communities around this country. They are moving in the direction of making public colleges and universities tuition free. And as President of the United States, we will make public colleges and universities tuition free in every state in this country. But we have got to go further than that. There are a whole lot of people in this room and around the country who were told when you were young, go to college, get a good education, and you did. You did the right thing. And you came out of school deeply in debt. And there are people in this country who have been paying off outrageous levels of student debt for decades. I bumped into a person, this is true, a guy who was going to get Social Security. And he was worried, this is true, that they were going to garnish his Social Security check in order to pay off his student debt. Well, when we think big and not small, when we think about a government which is supposed to represent working families and not just the rich, when we understand that 11 years ago, Congress, against my vote, bailed out the crooks on Wall Street who destroyed our economy, when we understand that a couple of years ago, Trump and his friends gave well over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% in large, profitable corporations. Well, if we could bail out Wall Street and give tax breaks to billionaires, we can cancel all student debt in this country. And people say, my critics, the editorial pages, political establishment says, Bernie, that's too radical, it's too expensive. Well, the truth is, it is expensive, but we pay for it with a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. And when we talk about thinking big and not small, it means that we are going to end the austerity programs imposed on working families and bring a little austerity to the 1%. And there's another issue which is not only a life and death issue to many millions of our people, it is to me, intensely moral issue. 4 years ago, I came here to Portland, and I said that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And I said that it is a little bit crazy that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of its people. And 4 years ago, that idea seemed to be a very radical idea. I was attacked all over the place for that idea. Well, poll after poll now shows that a majority of the American people and an overwhelming majority of Democrats now support a Medicare for all single-payer program. And let me tell you why more and more Americans now understand that we need Medicare for all. In this country, right now, the wealthiest country on earth, there are 87 million people who are uninsured or underinsured. And I want to underline that word, underinsured. Because there are politicians out there who say, well, I'm going to give you insurance. Insurance doesn't mean anything if it doesn't cover you when you need to be covered. We don't need junk insurance. We need comprehensive health care for our people. So what we have right now are millions of people, even those with insurance, who have high deductibles. Anybody here dealing with deductibles? All right. So what that means, if you don't have a lot of money, you, even with insurance, you don't go to the doctor when you get sick because you don't have the cash to pay out of pocket, and you don't have the cash to pay a co-payment. The result of that absurdity is that every year some 30,000 Americans needlessly die because they don't get to a doctor's office when they should. That ain't right. That is barbaric. Okay? Second of all, you got a pharmaceutical industry which are the biggest bunch of crooks in this country. I want to tell you a little story. Some of you may have heard it. About a month ago, I took a trip from Detroit into Windsor, Ontario. And with me was a bus full of folks who are diabetic. And as you all know, diabetes, a very serious illness which impacts many, many millions of Americans. And when you're diabetic, you need insulin. 7.5 million people in this country need insulin. We went to Ontario to buy insulin, and the diabetics who were with me purchased the same exact product sold in the United States for 1/10 of the price in Canada. And why is that? The reason for that is that Canada and every other major country on earth regulates the price that drug companies can charge. We don't. So I've got some bad news for the pharmaceutical industry. The United States will no longer be paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. We are going to substantially lower the price of prescription drugs, and no American under Medicare for All will pay more than $200 for the prescription drugs he or she needs. And here is how corrupt the system is. Last year, the top 10 drug companies made $69 billion in profit, while 1 out of 5 Americans could not afford to fill the prescriptions their doctors wrote. How absurd is that? So what we are going to do when we pass Medicare for All is to create a healthcare system which does not provide, as is currently the case, $100 billion in profit for the healthcare industry. We believe that the function of healthcare is to provide quality care for all in a cost-effective way, not to make a handful of billionaires even richer. Now you're going to be, when the healthcare industry makes $100 billion a year, all they have to do is spend 1% of that, $1 billion, to flood the airwaves with lies and deceptions. And that is what they will do. Mark my words, you're going to turn on your TV and there will be ads telling you how terrible Bernie is, how bad Medicare for All is. Please understand that the people who are paying for those ads are the drug companies and the insurance companies. They will do anything they can to protect their profits, but we are not going to allow them to win this struggle. Medicare for All is coming. And Medicare for All, let me tell you what it means. And I'm not telling you anything that's pie in the sky. This is what goes on in Canada. We're going to do better than Canada because we are already spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. You got that? We're spending twice as much. So what we are going to do is expand Medicare to cover dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. Under our proposal, no longer will you or your employers have to pay any premiums. Gone. No co-payments. Gone. No out-of-pocket expenses. Gone. In Canada, if you end up in a hospital and you have a heart transplant, and procedures that in this country would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, in Canada, you walk out of that hospital without any bill at all. That's what we're going to do. We will finance Medicare for All in the general tax base in a progressive way, which means that the overwhelming majority of people, except the very, very wealthy, will be paying less for health care under Medicare for All than they are today. And we're going to phase it in over a 4-year period. First year from 65 down to 55, 45, 35, everybody is in. That's it. End of story. So we need your help on this one, guys and ladies. We need your help because the healthcare industry has unlimited resources to put ads on television, in newspapers, magazines, the whole 9 yards. But if we stand up and understand that at the end of the day, healthcare is a human right, and we will not be denied, we're going to win this struggle. Now, I want to say a word about another issue, and that is we have a president who is a racist, who is a sexist, who is a homophobe, who is a xenophobe, who is a religious bigot, and then among other things, he's also a pathological liar. And a phony. And we could go on and on. But I don't want to waste too many words on Donald Trump because we're going to get him out of office fairly soon. But of all of the stupid things that come from Donald Trump, perhaps the most dangerous is his belief, or whatever it is that how his mind works, that climate change is a hoax. So tonight, we tell Donald Trump, climate change is not a hoax. Donald Trump is a hoax. And maybe, just maybe, when we are in the White House together, we are going to have a president who actually believes in science. And what the scientists are telling us is that not only is climate change real, not only is it caused by human activity, not only is it already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world, but more frighteningly, what they tell us is they have underestimated the potential damage. And what they say is that if we do not get our act together and transform our energy system and the world's energy system from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energy, within 12 years, there will be irreparable damage done in this country and around the world, damage that cannot be repaired. So we have what I call an existential crisis. It is not an American crisis, it is a global crisis. We need leadership in the White House that not only does not deny the reality of climate change, but more importantly is prepared to lead the world to combat climate change. Now, I don't know, to be honest with you, I really don't know whether this is possible or not, because it's a pretty ugly world out there. But my vision would be, as president, to tell countries all over the world that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.5 trillion a year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe, just maybe, we might want to use those resources to combat our common enemy, which is climate change. Now, whether we could do it or not, I don't know, but that is the effort that has to be made, because we are fighting not just for ourselves. More importantly, if we love our kids, and if we love our grandchildren, I've got 7 of them, and if we understand that this is the only planet that we have a moral responsibility to make sure that we leave this planet to future generations in a way that is healthy and habitable. That is our responsibility. And I'm proud to tell you that our campaign has introduced the most far-reaching and comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced in the history of this country. And once again, my critics say, hey, Bernie, that's expensive. You want to spend a whole lot of money. That's true. And what is the alternative? To lose the planet? I don't think so. And our proposal, among many other things, does away with the absurdity that at this time, right now, we are providing hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies and tax breaks to the fossil fuel industry. How insane is it to promote an industry which is in the process of destroying the planet? So we are going to move energy not only in the United States, but around the world in a very different way. And when we do that in our own country, we can create up to 20 million good-paying jobs, making our buildings more energy efficient, building the grids that we need, moving to solar, moving to wind, and moving to other sustainable energies. This is a struggle that we cannot lose for the sake of our kids and future generations. When we talk about some of the other issues that are out there, and I always have a difficult time talking about this one because it is so horrific, and especially for the children. But as you know, just yesterday, there was another mass shooting in Texas, following the mass shootings that we saw in El Paso, in Dayton, and the shootings that we have seen year after year, shootings that are so horrific that it's not easy to talk about it. But the result of all of that, which is not talked about enough, is the impact that these horrific shootings are having on kids in school. When I was a kid, and when many of you were kids, school was seen as a safe haven. You went to school to learn, you went to school to socialize, to have fun, to do what you do. But people did not go to school in fear. Parents did not send their kids to school in fear. And that is what is happening right now. A lot of kids are really frightened about what they have seen on TV. Now, I cannot tell you, there's anyone who tells you they have a magical solution to the crisis of mass shootings is not telling you the truth. Because the problem is, we got over 300 million guns in this country. We have over 10 million assault rifles in this country. Now, what we have got to do, given that reality, is the very, very, very best that we can do. And what does that mean? It means basically doing what the American people want us to do, whether they live in rural areas like Maine or Vermont, whether they live in urban areas like New York or Los Angeles, whether they're gun owners or non-gun owners. The American people are quite clear. They want us to expand background checks. They want us to do everything possible to make sure that somebody who should not own a gun, somebody who is a danger to others or himself, does not own that gun. They want us to end the gun show loophole. They want us to end the so-called straw man provision, which allows somebody legally to go into a gun store today, legally buy guns, and then sell those guns to criminal elements. They want us increasingly large numbers to do what I have advocated for 30 years, and that is to understand that assault weapons are military weapons designed to kill human beings as quickly as possible. And the American people now believe that the time is now to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. And there are other things that we can do. This is what, not what I want, not what you want, this is what the American people want. And then you might ask, well, if this is what the American people want, where is the United States Senate? And let me give you the answer. Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and all of these guys are scared to death of the NRA. So I say to McConnell, to Senator McConnell and to Trump, I say to them, listen to the American people, not just to the NRA. The NRA can no longer dictate gun policy in this country. And we're going to do everything that we can. The House passed some decent legislation. I think we got to go further. But McConnell has got to have the guts to put that legislation on the floor of the Senate. Another issue I want to touch on is I get a little bit tired of hearing my right-wing colleagues talk about how much they hate government, how much they believe in small government, how much they want to get government off of the backs of the American people. You ever hear that? Except, you see, they love small government. They love getting government off the backs of the American people, except when it comes to a woman controlling her own body. I happen to believe, and I think the vast majority of the American people believe, that a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right. And let me be very clear in telling you, I will never nominate anyone to the Supreme Court who is not 100% in favor of Roe versus Wade. The more I study the issue, the more absurd our current criminal justice system is. It is broken, it is racist, and we need fundamental reform of our criminal justice system. I want you to think about it. Take a step back and think about it. We don't do this enough. Here in the United States, we have more people in jail tonight than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size, which is a communist authoritarian country. We got more people in jail than China. Tonight, I want you to think about this. Tonight, we have 2 million people in jail. 20% of those people, about 400,000 people, are in jail tonight not having been convicted of anything. Do you know why they're in jail? Good, that's right. They are in jail because they are too poor to afford cash bail. Now think about that for a moment. Think about it for a moment. We all read about the debtors' prisons in Charles Dickens' times. Remember that? What do you think these prisons are today? What do you think these jails are? People are in jail before they go to trial, not having been convicted of anything. We are going to end cash bail in this country. Years ago, when I came to Maine, I said, you know what? This war on drugs is a little bit crazy. It is very destructive. And what has happened over the last few years in state after state, we have seen the decriminalization of marijuana or the legalization of marijuana. And that is a significant step forward. And what we have got to do is not only legalize marijuana, we have got to expunge the records of those who are arrested. I'll tell you one of the absurd things, really crazy things. You know, it's a candidate, I go all over the country, and I was in Nevada a couple of weeks ago. You drive down the road in Nevada and these huge signs which say in so many words, buy marijuana at this or that shop. And I'm thinking, here are these corporations selling a product that people are in jail today for doing exactly the same thing. How crazy is that? So, we are going to, as part of criminal justice reform, we are going to invest in our young people in terms of jobs and education rather than building more jails and incarceration. Our goal is to keep people out of jail through jobs and education. And then if they are in jail and they get out, our job is to make sure they have the jobs and the training and the education to stay out, and we lower the rate of recidivism. And then we got another crisis in front of us, and that is a disastrous, broken immigration system. So let me just tell you very briefly what we're going to do about that. On our first day, through executive order, we will provide and reestablish the legal status of 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. We will move and I believe succeed, because this is what the American people want. The American people haven't bought into Trump's racism and xenophobia. What they want, what I want, what you want are comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the 11 million undocumented. And what we want is a border policy which is humane and that understands that in America, our government does not tear babies away from their mothers, that our government does not throw children into cages, and we will have a humane border policy respecting international asylum law. Let me wind up by just saying this. This is an unprecedented moment in American history. And this election will determine not only the future of our country, but in many ways the future of the world. Trump, as you know, loves authoritarian leaders all over the world. He has contempt for the media. He has contempt for Congress and the separation of powers. We, on the other hand, believe in human rights and democracy. Trump does not believe that climate change is real. We see it as an existential threat to this country and the world. Trump thinks he can win re-election by dividing us up, based on the color of our skin, based on where we were born, based on our gender, our sexual orientation, or our religion. That's what demagogues always do. They divide people up and they go after those who don't have a lot of political power. We believe exactly the opposite. We believe in why we will win this election, that we will bring our people together. Black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, immigrant and native born. We will bring our people together around an agenda that works for all of us and not just the 1%. So this is an election of monumental consequence. It really is the future not only of our country, but in terms of climate change and other issues, the future of the world. We cannot afford to sit it out. We cannot throw up our hands in despair. We cannot get depressed. We cannot back off from what we see around us. If there was ever a moment in American history that we have got to stand up and fight back, this is the moment. So tonight, thank you. So tonight, from the bottom of my heart, this is not for me. This is for all of us. This is for our kids and our grandchildren. Tonight, I ask you not only to help us win here in Maine, but to join the political revolution which says to the corporate elite and the politicians that they own that enough is enough. We're going to reclaim our country. Thank you all very much.